you're willing to put in the work, you can rise really high, really, really fast.
Do I love cloud? Do I love working in tech?
There's always something, and you can't learn it all, and that can be very stressful. It can be very overwhelming. I didn't have a degree, but they liked my attitude, and that's a true story. They liked me better because I had a better attitude.
One of them was the CEO of the company, and another was a director, and both of their devices crashed. I was stressing.
I'm really nostalgic about my time in help desk.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Certified podcast. I'm your host, caleboni.certified, and this is the podcast where we interview tech creators and tech professionals who inspire us on our journeys in the tech industry. Today we have a special guest, a cloud security engineer and YouTuber who not only has deep technical knowledge, but has also taken and passed many certifications, and also shares, teaches, and puts out courses online on his YouTube channel, Zedsec. And he does this to help others build their understanding of cloud and cybersecurity tools and concepts. Zedsec, Zed, or Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
Great. I'm doing good. It's great to have you on. And let's get straight into it. And the first question I kind of wanted to ask you to get it started was, how did you sort of get to where you are now in terms of your journey in cybersecurity and cloud? How did you get to your current position as cloud security engineer?
How far back do you want? All the way?
Oh, it's up to you.
I was born.
Do you know what? Let's do a high level one, and maybe we can dig deeper in.
Okay, sure.
As we go on.
So I started as an apprentice doing IT support, where I dabbled a little bit in sort of infrastructure stuff. From there, I was a network and security engineer. Not to be confused with a network security engineer. I was a network and security engineer.
Right.
From there, I had a brief stint in the SOC, decided it wasn't for me, and I moved over to security managed services from there. And then I switched to another security managed services role. But yeah, so I'm a cloud security engineer working in security managed services.
Right. Makes sense. And like currently, I've watched a few of your videos on your channel, Zedsec, and I've seen like a lot of the courses that you put out and the teachings. A lot of the more recent ones are around Azure, cloud security, AZ 500, SE 200, I think, that sort of thing. So how did you stumble into that kind of area of Azure and Azure technology and Microsoft technology, I guess?
Yeah, sure. So I've always sort of touched on the Microsoft stack since I first started. And I just sort of fell into it, right? So I was in a role where I was running Splunk mostly. And look, I've used Splunk quite a lot now, and I've used Sentinel quite a lot now. And Sentinel was just a lot sexier to me. It seemed a lot like Splunk was on its way out. And it still kind of seems like that. Also, it was like on-prem Splunk, so it was like a big baby which needed a lot of cuddling and a lot of looking after. Whereas Sentinel, to me, it's very much you spin it up and then you do all your security use case and all your analyticals and stuff. But I'm not you're not patching a server state every 2 weeks. And so that's why I sort of focused on Sentinel as sort of the SIEM platform SIEM. That's a controversial topic. But then outside of that, obviously Microsoft goes hand in hand with that. One of the biggest things that got me out of help desk was PowerShell. And so again, that's a Microsoft technology. So me and Microsoft have just always gone hand in hand as far as my career's gone. And it's what sort of keeps landing me bigger and bigger roles as I go deeper into Microsoft stuff. Touched a little bit on AWS, not enough to even mention it on a CV. But so I've mostly just done Azure, and it's kind of just what I've stuck with, really.
Makes a lot of sense. And well, there's a couple of things that you said that are really interesting. I kind of picked up on a few of the different roles that you've done in just your introduction. I've heard like SOC already that you said you didn't like. I've heard IT support in the help desk. And now, obviously, you're in sort of cloud security. Talk to us about the SOC side of things and the IT support. And first of all, for those who don't know, give a little explanation of what the SOC is and what the SOC does, and what was it about that role that you didn't like, and and why did you sort of transition on to other things?
I've worked with lots of lovely people, so if anyone watches this, I'm not disparaging any former employers. Basically,
Yeah.
right. So I was doing like I said, I was doing a network and security engineering role, and I moved to a company which I really liked. I really liked the team, but it was titled like a security analyst job, but it was advertised to me very much like it was 50% engineering and 50% sort of day-to-day security operations. And it was in financial services. It was a small team, and it basically amounted to me just running the SOC day to day. It wasn't managed security; it was internal. It was internal security. So I was running a ticketing queue every day. And coming from a more engineering focused role, I just didn't love it. I think SOC is great if you're getting your start, and I actually think everyone could benefit from a stint in the SOC for sure. But a stint was enough for me. And so when I got the opportunity to jump back into a full cloud security engineering role, I just had to take it. I didn't love the SOC actually. I kind of hated it. And that's not even because it's because it was boring. I had a lot of alert fatigue, and I was writing a lot of automations. I did like about that role. I got to do a lot of Python. I wrote a lot of Python automations, which really speed up some of the more repetitive processes. And that's the stuff I like, and that's the stuff I've always liked, is the automation side of things. And so, just sitting in a ticketing queue, it was like releasing phishing emails and stuff as well. Like a lot. I was doing a lot of phishing email releases, and it just didn't. I didn't love it. And a lot of people watch this and they go, "That's not real SOC." Again, it was internal security, which is why it wasn't so busy.
Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And what about your IT support role? What was your sort of experience in the help desk, and how did you transition out of that? I know a lot of people, they go into IT support as kind of a first role, and some people, they want to transition as soon as possible and get into like maybe a cybersecurity role or cloud or whatever it may be. But there are a lot of people who they get into that help desk role and are kind of like stuck there for a certain amount of years, and they can't kind of move on. And it can get difficult when you get into that role and aren't able to move on. But what was your experience working in that role?
So I'm really nostalgic about my time in help desk. I did help desk for maybe 18 months or so. And I was an apprentice, so I basically knew nothing going in, right? I did 2 years in college, and I dropped out to do this apprenticeship because I was worried about job prospects when I got out of a full 4-year degree. But that's a different conversation because I'm now finishing my degree part-time. But basically, this was before COVID. So I was doing help desk. I was working on site. There wasn't even a murmuring of working from home in my future. And, I'm really nostalgic about my time in help desk. So I was doing the ticketing queue, obviously for a pretty small company, probably about 200 people or so. Our IT department was maybe 12 people at the time. I think it was 8 by the time I left, just for some downsizing related stuff. But for the most part, I learned so much from so many people, and this is something which I love remote work. I I learned so much sitting next to all those people, and so much of what got me out of help desk was talking to people who weren't even doing my role. So I was smashing the service desk, right? I was closing 200 tickets. I was closing double what the next person was closing. But the thing is that like there was other people and they were working applications team, they're doing all their database stuff. Some people were working on Azure, and a lot of those people really encouraged me they really brought me into the stuff they were doing. Like they've seen I was working hard on it, and they really encouraged me to like look into automation. And so from there, I actually started automating a lot of the repetitive tasks in my job role. And this is how I learned PowerShell. And I always say when you're learning something, you should really have a use case, because that's what's going to really, really teach you it properly. And so I had this new user process that was taking me hours per user to set up and sign all their licenses. And so I just automated all with PowerShell, like made this PowerShell script that you could basically feed in CSV, their job titles, who it would copy the permissions from, because that's how we did it there. We would copy a new employee's permissions from a current employee. Again, some people have some security concerns about that, but I was an apprentice. And then from there, it would automatically assign all their licensing and stuff. It was just very cool, and it took what was hours and hours of task down to probably 15 minutes or so by the time I did all the admin for it. And so
Amazing.
Already there, I was saving hours in a week, and that freed me up to work on more interesting stuff. And that's where I think sometimes you have to kind of create your own opportunity. And that's how I ended up. And it was my PowerShell skills that got me my sort of network security engineering role.
So today's video has been kindly sponsored by Cloudways. Cloudways provides fast and reliable cloud hosting solutions for digital agencies, e-commerce stores, and online businesses. As a managed cloud provider, Cloudways provides the flexibility to manage your applications or websites on top cloud infrastructures like AWS, DigitalOcean, and even Google Cloud. Cloudways provides world-class hosting solutions for WordPress, Magento, Laravel, and PHP applications. The platform ensures fast and reliable performance, high availability to host high traffic sites. Plus, with Cloudways Autonomous, enjoy fully managed hosting that auto-scales to meet the needs of your growing business. Cloudways provides a variety of options. Simply click the link in the description below to try it out for completely free. Big thank you to Cloudways for sponsoring this video.
They were really interested in the PowerShell stuff, and that's really what got me out of it.
Amazing. That's pretty cool. Really cool. And that shows what automation really does and how much time that can save. But also what was really interesting about what you said is about how people really encourage you to sort of work on other things and move on into different areas, which is really cool. Another question I wanted to ask you to sort of move on a bit was, I guess it kind of flows through from the previous question. But throughout your journey in tech, in cybersecurity, in cloud security, in all the roles you've done so far, what is the biggest pro and the biggest con of working in this industry, or the different areas you've worked in so far? The biggest pro and the biggest con.
Look,
You can be honest.
I like solving problems. I like problem solving. I like interest in work. I like learning stuff. Like I like having a problem and having to work it out. That's why the automation piece really does a lot for me. At the same time, like, look, I'm going to be honest. This is a high paying field. You, as someone who have not a lot of educational background, you can come in, and if you're willing to put in the work, you can rise really high, really, really fast. And it depends what your definition of fast is, and it's really as much as you're willing to learn. There's just opportunity there for someone who's willing to graft and put the work in. Like for example, I've kind of lost my train of thought there, but you know what I mean. Like you can come in, and as long as you're willing to put in that extra work, you can really rise really fast. And that's why there's always something new to learn and stuff as well. But like I said, it's also salary. I'm not someone who thinks you have to have a passion. I'm someone who's very lucky to have found a passion though, and that helps immensely.
Yeah, really, that's really interesting as well, because you talk about doing what you love. Like, I guess this is kind of philosophical now. Doing what you love. People say you should find what you love and turn it into a job, or do whatever you really love. But there's also things that you love that there's not as much opportunity, to be honest. But I feel like for me, do I love cloud? Do I love working in tech? To some extent, I love that I'm interested in this. I love that it's a great place to work. I know I have a good interest in it. It's not the thing I love. I kind of love loads of other things. I love playing basketball, hanging out with friends. We talk about real passion or love for things, or even creating and sharing things online, things that I could say I love. But that's really interesting that you share that. And so, what would you say the biggest con of being in this industry would be for you?
There's a few. It's stress. With going into those higher roles, there's a lot of stress with that. It can be overwhelming in terms of trying to learn the next sort of technologies. I always say it's all about pivoting the new technologies and kind of adapting to how the market's changing. But that can be very overwhelming. Like I'm looking at all these other videos, and there's your Kubernetes and your CI/CD, and then you've got all your AI stuff that's coming in, and then you've got your Go, your Pythons, your PowerShells. You got your Power BI. Like there's always something, and you can't learn it all, and that can be very stressful. It can be very overwhelming, and it's like, how do you not put all your eggs in one basket? kind of gone down the Microsoft path. If I had to change, I would. But if Microsoft died in the market, like I'd have to pivot to something else, and that's stressful because you're like, oh, do I need to take a pay cut? There's also the constant learning. Some people love constantly learning, and I love learning new things. But at the same time, like I want free time, and I'm not someone. Look, when I need to skill up, I skill up, right, in my spare time. But I don't do it for fun. And like, I know I've got this YouTube channel, but that I'm sure we'll get into that. But that's also a career move. It's not really and it is a labor of love to an extent, but all those, like, I wouldn't be like when I used to do try hack me videos, hack the box videos. I was really trying to get into hack the box as a hobby, and I can't. I can't do it. And so there's always this expectation of constantly learning, and also I feel like you get this in every market, but there's a lot of redundancy as well. Most companies I've worked at have had some degree of redundancy, and I've been lucky to avoid that. I mean, at one point I took a voluntary redundancy, and I put my hand up because I had other job offers. But there are a lot of cons in sort of the work we do, for sure.
Yeah, and that is really interesting as well because, a lot of the time on the internet, people can look at, the tech industry as this is the place to be. Everything is so great and rosy about this industry. But truly, there are things that you look at and be like, oh, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look great. The layoffs of the past 2023 and 2020, and even early this year, the amount of layoffs is really rough, and the market is really rough as well. I mean, it's up and down. I graduated during COVID when everything was rough, and I was looking for a job when COVID was starting, and there wasn't much going on. It was horrible, but I ended up going ahead and continuing studying instead because I felt like, let me give this some time to recover. And luckily, it did recover quite quickly. And it even, there were so many more jobs available at some point. So the market goes up and down. And even the stress of having to learn a lot of things and continue learning is what I would say is my biggest con as well. So to move on, a question that I wanted to ask you coming into this interview was really just from what I've seen of your YouTube channel, of Zedsec, and the amount of learning that you've done, and the content that you've shared. It seems like you've managed to learn a lot, which is incredible. And I really just wanted to understand your system of learning, how you study, how you learn, and how you've acquired that knowledge, not only to be able to understand and pass certifications, but also to teach it and to put full-blown courses on your channel, which I find incredible, by the way. And how have you managed to do that? And what is your system of learning to be able to achieve and learn? Yeah, be able to push that kind of content out in that way.
It's always labbing. It's just labbing. I know maybe for a CompTIA Security Plus, you couldn't lab as much, but on the Azure side of things, it's lab it, and lab it again, and go outside of the bounds of. I mean, it's very easy to load up Microsoft Learn, and they've got all the learning pathways on there. But if you're wanting to use these tools, you have to lab it. Now, I did a certification years and years ago, probably about 6 years ago now. It was called the MCSA Server 2016.
Right.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the MCSA certifications.
They're retired now, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're a fucking beast. Like I've got the textbooks back here. The 3 textbooks together are thicker than my head. And this was 3 exams you had to pass to get the one certification, and it took me 3 months of labbing in my spare time while working help desk. I was labbing it at home in like a home virtualized home lab just to pass this certification. You wouldn't pass it, and not only would you not pass it, you wouldn't get the value out of it. It looks like I get a lot of certifications, but I only use certifications as to guide my learning.
Right.
I say this at the start of every one of my courses. If you're looking to just pass, if you're looking to strictly go by the certification objectives, and you're looking to just pass, my course isn't necessarily for you. My courses are for people who want to use these tools and want to know how to use these tools to basically pass job. Like, I could explain to you what Defender for Endpoint is in 15 minutes and cut the video there, but I spend an hour diving into the portal and this, here's how you actually configure this, and here's how I configure this day to day in my actual role. And so there are ways. There's always the thing on YouTube of you're weighing up viewership. How do you pull in viewers versus what message you're trying to deliver? And I'm trying to deliver pure technical content, as opposed to. And I've been trying some more sort of beginner stuff. My stuff is beginner friendly, but for the most part, I want to do technical content that's really valuable to people. Is the crux of it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I've looked at some of that content, and you can see that it is. It's not just a pass. It is really technical, and there's a lot of stuff on there that I'd be able to watch and take into what I do at my job. I also work a lot with Defender and Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Cloud, Defender for Office, and all the other stuff. So really, really great stuff on there. And for the audience watching, if that's something that interests you, Zedsec's channel will be linked in the title and in the description. So go over there and definitely check that out and see all the value you can get from that. Moving on, a really great question that I wanted to ask, and I'll probably just ask all my guests that come on to this podcast section of the channel, is mostly about getting into tech. I know there's a lot of people that are watching this that are looking to get their first roles in either cloud computing or cybersecurity, and they are looking for how they can get their first role and how they get that chance and opportunity. So for you, who's had a lot of experience in this industry, in this ever-changing industry, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to get their first role in tech, whether that's cybersecurity or cloud?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, look, I didn't start in cloud and security. And there's a whole big conversation to be had about gatekeeping. A lot of people say you cannot start in security without doing help desk. You can't start in cloud without doing help desk. I don't think that's true. Now, I think that starting in help desk can be the path of least resistance, and I don't think it's something to turn your nose up at if it's the opportunity presented to you. But at the same time, if you can skip it, skip it. Like, I don't think that no one starts in security. Some people do, especially like when you look at your SOC roles. Like, lots of people are hired out of university to do SOC roles and like manage security incidents and do triage and stuff. I would say focus on. I'd say look in your area and see what's actually hiring and see what the most common technologies are, and try and pick up those technologies yourself. And look, if it's, I'm not sure about the AWS side, but if you look at Azure, obviously you watch some courses, but you need to start labbing it, start doing it. Whether you're building a Windows Server home lab or you're doing it all in Azure, what's your costs? Make sure you're understanding your budgets and your cost alerts before you do any of that. But all your Defender products, they all have free trials. They all have free trials that last a month or two. So you can really start configuring this stuff. And it's okay to use tutorials. It's okay to use all the MS Learn documentation. But I would say just if you're at a loss for getting in, you just need to look at what's hiring, what technologies are needed, and see if you can get some sort of free trial for those and start teaching it to yourself. I mean, they're always gonna basically favor someone who's gonna go above and beyond to learn these technologies. If I'm asked in an interview, do you know this? I say no, but I can learn it. Like, I'm eager to learn it. Like, and so that's another thing is that, look, when I was hired as an apprentice, that's another option. Apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships are also something to look at. With a degree apprenticeship, you come out with a 4-year degree at the end, which is really, really valuable. Again, apprentice wages are really low, so I know that's a luxury that some people can't afford. I mean, look, when I was an apprentice, I earned £15,000 a year, but I was very lucky in that, one, I lived with my parents, and two, I had a £6,000 on call. £6,000 a year was on call as well, so it was 21. I knew apprentices that were on 12,000 a year because you go on all these apprentice courses, and I worked for a very good company. Some companies get apprentices for just cheap labor. And so you have to be. I know there's a luxury associated with that, but look into apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships. They're always worth it. And then you take it upon yourself to start learning the tools. Really. Sorry. One last point was that when I interviewed in this apprenticeship, there was people with more experience There was people that had degrees. I didn't have a degree, but they liked my attitude. And that's a true story. They liked me better because I had a better attitude. I was so willing to learn, and that's how I ended up with the job. So don't necessarily think that you're up against people with better qualifications than you, because you are, but it's not always about that. See, they can always teach technical, but they cannot teach a good attitude. And no one wants to work with someone horrible or just like someone arrogant.
Very true, very true, and that's really interesting as well. Another thing I wanted to ask, kind of what I'll ask again to pretty much everyone that comes on here, is if they have one to share a really interesting or your most interesting career story that you've had during your career.
I've never broken anything in my whole tech career. Everything I do works the first time. No, so I knocked the whole network down one time. Now, I was an apprentice and probably should have been supervised better. I was tasked with migrating our antivirus solution to a cloud version of that antivirus solution. We had this like just on-prem version, but they had this new spangled cloud version, and it was a free upgrade. So we're like, look, we're always messing about with this software. It was Sophos Endpoint at the time, and it was a real pain. And so I got handled this migration project. And at first, I made all the right decisions. I was testing it on different devices. I was testing it on a variety of different servers that were low risk. Started picking off a couple of users. It had this migration tool where it could automatically whip the client off of the endpoint and reach out to the internet and grab the new version. And at some point, I decided I tested it enough, and I selected every endpoint in the organization and hit them all to upgrade, and they all I didn't set up a local distribution point, and every single one of those endpoints and servers and kiosks on the production lines all reached out to the internet to grab the new client, and it basically just completely hammered the network. This was a 24/7 basically production company. They manufactured goods, and basically stuff started erroring, jobs stopped going out. Production lines were down. It wasn't good.
That's terrible. I mean, I wouldn't say that was your fault. Like, as an apprentice,
if I didn't know, it would be my fault. But no, I needed a babysitter at the time.
Definitely, yeah. Things like this happen. Things like this happen often. And I feel like everyone has a similar story to that. Everyone who's been in tech long enough has some sort of story that is quite similar to yours, which is crazy.
You have to own up immediately. Don't hide it.
Yeah.
Hand up, it was me. Let's fix it. And again, you'll learn in doing that, but don't hide it. You'll get caught and you'll look silly.
Yeah, literally. And I'll briefly share my an interesting story from my career. Wait, stop. There is no way you've listened to this podcast all this way and have not subscribed to the channel. Some of you have not even liked the video. If you've taken any value from this podcast, please subscribe to the channel, caleboni.certified, and leave a like on this video so it can get out to as many people as possible. And you never know, leaving a like might actually give you some good luck. Okay, that's enough. Let's get back to the podcast. My career hasn't been very long. I'd say it's been 2.5 years or 2.25. But I was working for a company that kind of sends engineers out to small and medium-sized companies to sort of, work on their tech, upgrade their technology, that sort of thing. And I was sent out to a company to upgrade several different things, but one of those things was their antivirus. I think they were moving from McAfee to something else, or something to McAfee. And basically, one thing you shouldn't do, if you have done before, is have two antiviruses working on one endpoint on one device. It just doesn't work. But I didn't know this. I was sent to do a job. I was given instructions on what to do, and that's what I did. And so I went around to each individual and got their device, installed the new antivirus without taking off the old one and not uninstalling the old one. And some of them crashed, some of them didn't. The ones that crashed one of them was the CEO of the company, and another was a director, and both of their devices crashed. It was pretty bad, and I was stressing. I was so stressed. I was calling people, telling them what happened, back at the headquarters or wherever, and people were just like, "Did you take off the old one?" And I was like, no, I wasn't told to do that." But at the end of it all, they were just like, "It's not your fault, Caleb. It's really the person who sent you over there, the project manager, that didn't really tell you what to do." I think I'd been working at the company for like 2 months, and I was very early into my career at this point. And, I was doing well in other areas, but this is like a first big mistake.
Yeah,
I think the biggest... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say that, like, I mean, look, I accidentally like deleted all of someone's files in my second week as an apprentice.
Wow.
So I cried in my car at lunch because the guy shouted at me. Like, he shouted at me, and maybe not understandably, but like it wasn't a good reaction. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me at the time. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can. I was like, I'm going back to work in the local co-op.
Oh, things like this happen. That is the life of an engineer. So those are some really interesting stories. I'm glad we were able to share that, and I was able to share one as well. Moving on, I wanted to ask you about your... I guess you've kind of answered this question actually, but to go over it again, I wanted to go over, what inspired you to share to share all the content and the courses online, and how have you found that content creation kind of process?
It's not for money, I'll tell you that, because like I'm net negative on my channel. My like it's definitely not a monetary project. We're in the red. But basically, because like by the time I do all my licensing for my videos and then any like Photoshop and all that, like you're not making it big with a small cloud YouTube channel. And for me, the reason I started was I wanted to get better at explaining things. And I know that sounds silly, but I very much found I was in meetings quite a lot, and I had trouble. Getting my words out how I wanted them to. I struggled to find the words for a lot of things, and so I thought, look, if I can start uploading these videos and I can start explaining these terms, one, as I'm learning stuff, it's going to sink in more, and I'm going to solidify, because nothing will teach you something better than having to explain it to someone.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I've caught myself and being like, oh, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense what I'm saying. I need to go look into this more before I continue this video, because I'm missing a critical bit of knowledge here that I thought I had. Like, I'll think, oh, I'm really solid on this technology, and I'll think, oh, hang on a minute, someone's going to ask this, and I'm not going to have an answer. Right, I'll go and research that. And so for me, it was very much a project in getting better at explaining things. And as a result of that, solidifying my technical knowledge, but also my soft skills as well, which is hopefully going to help me rise in seniority a bit.
Yeah, that's really good. I didn't expect that. And what is interesting is that I've actually found the same thing, where before I started, I might have been okay at giving a presentation, but now that I sit in this bedroom and talk to a camera with no one there, when there are people there, it's so much easier. I became a much better communicator from having a YouTube channel, and that really has helped me in my career in different ways. So it's really interesting that you say that this is kind of a project to improve your communication and your soft skills. And I find that, that's really cool.
I mean, it gives me a good feeling when someone says that my video helped them out. I get a lot of comments saying that they can't understand my accent, or that I'm speaking too fast. Then I get other comments where people say, no, you're not speaking too fast, I can understand you. But when you get that comment where someone says, look, I passed this certification and it's thanks to your course, or look, I'm starting a job and I need to know these tools, and thanks to you now you've shown me this, and it makes me feel so good. And like it makes my day when I get a comment like that. Like it really, even if you're having a bad day at work, you open up your YouTube studio and someone's left a nice comment. Never mind, but when I get a bad comment, then it ruins my day at work. But when I get a nice comment, you're like, oh, someone's passed this certification, and they're saying that I was really pivotal, and the content was really pivotal in their study routine, and it makes you think, like, oh shit, like it's actually helpful. Like it's not just random crap that I'm putting up because one person said it helped them.
Yeah, very true. I feel the same way so often, and there's a lot of encouraging messages that go out there. Also, a lot of, but yeah, no, it's really nice to know that some of the content that goes out there, and a lot of the content that you put out there, especially it being so technical, is really helping people with stuff that they actually work on in the real world.
It's the shorts content. It's the shorts videos that are the nastiest.
Oh, yeah,
People in the shorts comments they're savage. They take no prisoners in the shorts comments.
Yeah, I have actually noticed that. It's pretty interesting. Cool. Thanks so much, Zed, or Alex, for joining me today. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you if there's anything you want to share, plug, or promote. You can do so now.
No, yeah, just Zedsec on YouTube. Like I said, if you want to do technical content, I mean, I'm starting to dive more into shorter technical videos. So I had an Azure CLI video recently, where I sort of covered Azure CLI in 20 minutes. And I'm looking to start sprinkling those in between the bigger courses. So they take a while to make. So I'm trying to sprinkle a little bit extra in the middle there. But yeah, no, Zedsec, if you want to learn technical content for Azure, head on over.
Amazing. Thank you, Zed. And for everyone watching, in the comment section, please let us know what creators and professionals you'd like to see on the podcast. I'll do my best to make that happen for you guys. Zed, thanks so much for being a guest today. Really appreciated your input and everything you've shared. And thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.